In yesterday. My name is Samuel Stolten and I'm the MC of this year's summit. If you were with us yesterday and you enjoyed it so much you want to watch some of it again, stay tuned to our social media accounts where we will post the recordings in the coming days. A quick housekeeping point. If you're joining our live stream today, please do so through the dedicated Alldigital platform over at summit.all-digital.org, and you'll find many extra features and many other ways of getting involved in this year's summit over there. But back to today, and the second day of the Alldigital Summit will see us focusing on STEAM education. That's science, technology, engineering, arts and maths. The interdisciplinary approach of STEAM education integrates analytical and creative thinking, engenders the development of convergent and divergent skills, and even stimulates both the right and left sides of the human brain. And one example that we'll be hearing a lot more about today is the STEAM Mon Edu project. But now, to tell us a bit more about this and what to expect throughout the day, let me welcome to the stage the CEO of Alldigital, Peter Pawłowski, and Professor Achilles Kamias, Professor of Pervasive and Mobile Computing Systems at the Hellenic Open University.
Thank you very much, Samuel. And I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to open the second day of Alldigital Summit together with Professor Achilles Kamias from Hellenic Open University and member of the board of Alldigital. And as you may know, the Alldigital Summit this year is focusing on a key theme, which is digital skills and tools for a better world. And we turn our focus on three different empowerment themes: empowering citizens and digital competence centers, empowering STEAM educators, and that's the topic of today. And tomorrow we'll talk about empowering young people. And what is connecting these three themes is looking for solutions to real world and societal problems through digital tools and solutions. And yesterday we had a very nice day with keynote presentations, and we are very pleased that Commissioner Nicolas Schmit accepted our invitation to talk about digital skills as an investment in the future. And we had the Alldigital Award ceremony. We had an interesting panel discussion with representatives of EU institutions, ICT sector, and the civil society. We had interesting lightning talks and informative sessions and parallel workshops. And today we are talking about and discussing STEAM education through and with the support of the STEAM on Edu project. And we will discuss increasing the adoption and influence of STEAM education by investing in a community of stakeholders and also the professional development of STEAM educators. And before I give you the floor, Achilles, I just want to highlight the platform and the functionalities of the platform, the networking opportunities. You can schedule meetings with other conference participants, and please visit the marketplace where we have more than 70 virtual booths displayed. And you can still open your own booth if you would like to present your product or service. And Achilles, I would like to ask you, how STEAM education is related to Alldigital's mission and why it is important for us.
STEAM education, STEAM, as Samuel already said, integrates science, technology, engineering, mathematics and all the rest. Sometimes this well, it used to be arts, now it seems to be that it's all the rest that can bring you creativity. STEAM education promises to deliver individuals that are complete, more complete, let's say, than other educational systems, educational approaches, in the sense that they must be able to research, to deal with an issue, to solve it, to engineer the solution, so to plan and engineer the solution and then measure it and do it in a creative way. So in order to get there, we need that these people acquire technological skills, analytical skills, creative skills, and of course, digital skills. At the basis of STEAM education, of STEAM skills, let's say, lies digital technology, digital competence, I would say. But this is easier said than done. How do we get there? This is going to be the topic of today's day. Our spearhead, as you already said, are educators. These are the people we are going to invest on so that we manage to have a widespread adoption of STEM and STEAM education. And this is because STEAM education is a different educational paradigm than the ones we've been used to up to now. In order to apply it, we need a change in the mindset. We need a change in the practices. We need a lot of changes, actually. And we are going to have a nice day today to discuss dedicate a lot of time to discuss about what and how we are going to, what is STEAM education and how we are going to achieve it.
STEAM education is one of the 5 pillars or focus themes of Alldigital, along basic digital skills, advanced digital skills, media literacy, digital cultural heritage, but STEAM education is one of the focus areas we are working on. So I'm very happy that we could include this topic into the Alldigital Summit.
Of course, we are also happy too. I'm speaking as a coordinator of the STEAM on Edu project, and very rightly, STEAM education is one of the pillars of Alldigital because in addition to relying on digital competence, it also heavily promotes inclusion in tomorrow's society. And these are the 2 main pillars of the vision and mission of Alldigital.
I think now it's time to ask Samuel to introduce the first keynote speaker. Thank you very much and enjoy the summit.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Peter and Achilles there, for your warm welcome to day 2 of the Alldigital Summit. And ahead of many more lightning sessions, panel discussions and presentations a bit later on, it's just about time now to start our first keynote speech of the day. And for this, we are very pleased indeed to be joined by someone who plays a central role in developing educational policies from the EU capital. Anuska Ferrari is a policy officer at the European Commission, working within the DG for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture. Her work is primarily focused on policies on education and training in Europe, lifelong learning, digital competencies and digital education. She's going to give us the perspective of the European Commission with regards to STEM and STEAM education. And we'd also love to hear your questions to her, so please feel free to submit them through the online platform. I'm delighted now to pass the floor to Anuska Ferrari.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you very much. So I would just like to start by thanking Alldigital for inviting me. So my name is Anuska Ferrari, as you just heard, and I work on the implementation of the Digital Education Action Plan. And I generally focus on digital skills and competencies, but I'm here today to talk about STEAM education and STEM. So I think it's very important to consider STEM or STEAM, as you prefer to call it, as part of our endeavor towards digital education. So I would like to start by thinking about why do we bring together STEAM and digital, and why do we talk about STEAM for empowerment? So first of all, I think that it's quite clear to us that it's not just because in STEAM we have technology or we have disciplines that are underlying our understanding of digital that we need to consider this as part of our efforts to bring digital education forward in Europe. It is important because it's counterbalancing some of the facts that relate to digital aspects. So it's not just about the technical understanding, but it's also about the scientific method and approach that is going through with the STEAM education, to which we add as well the exploratory aspects that bring on with the creativity, with the A that Achilles was mentioning before. Now, why do we think STEAM is good for empowerment? Well, we all know that knowledge is empowerment. And I think that we need to create and to develop the skills that relate to STEAM even more than we are doing now. First of all, because there is a need that comes from society to better understand the challenges that we are facing. And here I'm thinking about all the approaches that different people have to reading the news that we find online, to finding information, and to be critical about the information that they find that is mediated through the use of digital technology. So indeed, I believe that supporting STEM and STEAM education will also lead to empowering people in their choices, not just in their careers, for their daily life. So what I'm going to talk about today is the importance of STEM and STEAM in the initiatives of the Commission from an education and training point of view and perspective. You all know that STEM in particular, rather than STEAM, was already present as part of the key competencies for lifelong learning. So it has been a long time that the Commission put the accent on promoting STEM education. And we also think and consider that, that STEM is very relevant for the post-corona recovery and to move from a linear to a circular economy. So I think that in this different set of disciplines that we are tackling when we talk about STEAM, we also need to consider the knowledge, skills and attitudes that are needed today, not only for the circular economy, but also for an understanding of sustainable development. And this is also going towards the direction I was mentioning before, towards empowerment. Now, we need to invest in the STEM field because these competencies are also very important for the growth of our economy, or rather than growth, I would say the progression and sustainability of our economy and well-being. And we need to do so in a way that is diversified and inclusive, by which I mean that it's not just about targeting talents and having the top % of students and learners that engage in STEM education, but it is through embarking a diversity of students and learners into these disciplines that we can have a diversity of approaches as well in the professional world. So it's everyone that is needed, not just a certain category of people and citizens. However, we face shortages, not just in terms of shortages of professionals, but also in terms of competencies. And the problem starts early. I'll give you some numbers. So a quarter of 15 years old in the EU are functionally illiterate in STEM subjects. We witness low interest or relatively low interest in STEM studies among young people, and only 1 in 5 young people in Europe graduates from STEM tertiary education. And we have less than 2 million STEM graduates every year in the EU. This is not a huge number, but then I was talking about the diversity and the diversity of learners and students. And even if we try to promote an inclusive approach to STEM education, actually we know that women are strongly underrepresented in the sector. 1 in 3 STEM graduate is a woman. And actually, and I'm saying this because all of you know that I come from the digital skills perspective, this is even worse when we look at ICT study. There we have 1 in 5 ICT graduates that is a woman, so even worse than that. We know that there are existing gaps that depend on many things that are beyond our control. There is a part of models that are lacking in a way. There are different interests that come into the age of teenagehood, and we're trying to address that. But there is particularly a problem in the lower participation in higher education studies. And I'm going to come back to that at the end of my intervention when I'm going to talk about the fundings that are related to what we are doing on STEM. So basically, one of the initiatives that we're doing at European level is not only including STEM and STEAM, of course, as part of the key competencies framework, not only promoting a diversity of approaches to STEM and STEAM, but in particular looking at how women are choosing, let's say, STEAM subject as an option from earlier on. We think that schools play a key role in changing the perception, in fighting the stereotypes, in building confidence, because very often, especially for women, it's a matter of confidence or self-perception when they choose or do not these kind of subjects. But we also know that it is not enough to tackle schools alone and school education alone. So what we're trying to do is to strengthen the links between schools, higher education, and industry in exposing students to STEM subjects and in creating this general awareness of not only the importance of STEM studies, but also on the fact that everyone can and should participate. So for instance, there are several efforts that are done through the EU STEM Coalition in this area, and in that I have to recognize the effort that is made in the EU STEM Coalition, for instance, in bringing to the student the real life long context that comes with STEM disciplines. Another initiative is addressing the shortage of STEM teachers. This is done through the promotion to alternative pathways to teaching. So teachers are coming to the STEM disciplines also through other previous career paths, not with the traditional path that leads to become a teacher and an educator. Now, one of the actions I would like to talk to you about today is the action that we have as part of the Digital Education Action Plan. As you know, we adopted, I hope you know that we adopted the Digital Education Action Plan last September. For those of you who were here yesterday, I believe that my director was speaking about that in a keynote address yesterday. And for those of you who looked at the Digital Education Action Plan, you might have seen that we have a very ambitious plan that is providing our vision for the next multi-financial framework period. So it covers from 2021, this year, to 2027. And what we want to cover with this action plan is not only formal education, but education and training in a larger perspective, so addressing the diversity of stakeholders and diversity of issues that come with digital education, thus covering the use of digital technologies and the ecosystem for education and training, but also covering the aspect of digital skills. The reason why I'm dwelling a bit about the general aspect of the Digital Education Action Plan is because we think that digital skills, even if they are very well defined in the digital competence framework that was put forward in 2013 by the Commission, and that Alldigital has been promoting since, so even if those are very well defined, there is a variety of skills that needs to be addressed. So we need to think about digital skills in a wider way. And STEM skills and competencies are part of this. And not only that, we also need to consider how different people develop different levels and leverage in different ways their competencies in the digital domain. So for this, what we are addressing with the second priority of the action plan is targeting different stakeholders group and different audiences. And we have a specific action that is related to STEM, and this is to promote an initiative that is called Girls Go Circular, that puts forward a series of training activities for female students at secondary education in particular. And this is led by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology and its Knowledge and Innovation Communities, also known as KIC. So this is coordinated by the EIT KIC on raw materials. And the aim of this project is to reduce the digital gender gap and try to empower girls aged from 14 to 18 to develop their digital competencies and gaining more knowledge on the circular economy. So the ambition is to have 50,000 girls to embrace their talent in STEM and ICT by 2027. So far, and please remember that the implementation of the action plan started in January this year, so January 2021. We trained, or rather the EAT trained 2,300 girls in 8 countries to date, more or less, or at least a couple of days ago when I last checked. The project is there also to support teachers and to engage in this diversity of needs that is particularly targeting younger and women. So the fact of having role models, the fact of developing their self-confidence, and the fact of developing an interest and a proximity with these different disciplines. There is a Women and Girls in STEM forum that is planned for the 28th of October as part of this. And I believe that the registration of the event is still open, so you might want to check this out in case you're interested. Now, as part of the activities that we're doing with the Digital Education Action Plan, we are also planning on developing new higher education programs for STEM by reinforcing the arts aspect in the STEM, so by reinforcing the STEAM aspect. And with this, I'm coming back to what I said before, that there is an issue in particular at higher education level with the choices that students take, and this here I'm going more general, not just focusing on women. So for this, I am happy to note and to say that for Erasmus+, which is one of our leading funding programs, STEM is considered as a priority, and we are having this as part of the priorities of the work program for 2021, and we're working towards having this as a priority of 2022. In particular, STEM and STEAM are referenced under Key Action 2, with Partnership for Cooperation in the field of education, training and youth, and in particular there are cooperation partnerships in the field of higher education. We are already having a number of projects that are tackling different STEM approaches and subjects, and we have as well a different timeline and different Erasmus Plus calls that will consider this as a priority. So this can be of interest for probably many of the stakeholders that are here. Now, another aspect I wanted to mention today in my intervention is the aspect of STEAM for sustainability. As I was saying before, there is a huge plethora of disciplines that we can add to this acronym. It's not just about science, but it's about many more subjects, and it's especially about a way of thinking and a way of developing attitudes and not only knowledge and skills. So we are working towards the aspect of sustainability, and we consider this as being as part of our STEM approach. So for instance, this year, General Assembly of the EU STEM Coalition was about STEM skills for environmental sustainability, just to give you an example. We are launching this year a new initiative, so our commissioner is going to launch it, which is the Education for Climate Coalition, which is under Erasmus+. And this Education for Climate Coalition initiative will help the acquisition of strong STEM skills by emphasizing the multidisciplinarity of approaches that can be taken. And we will have a dedicated online platform because we would like to support the wider community of education and training in engaging in sustainability and sustainability for education. Moreover, we are working now on a council recommendation, for a council recommendation on education for environment and sustainability. And here as well, we are considering environmental sustainability as not only as part of a specific educational approach that tackles specific subjects, but also as part of competence development. So for instance, by developing the knowledge, skills, and attitudes of every student. And for this, as you probably know, we are working together with the JRC for developing digital skills and competencies through a framework. Now, you also possibly know that through the EIT Climate Kick, we run frequently climatons and teacher training workshop to support a creative approach through on this environmental sustainability education. And I think probably I will close here. So just by summarizing a couple of funding opportunities that are at European level. So one is definitely through Horizon Europe. So I was talking about the fact that STEM is a priority for Erasmus+, and it has been so. But we also have Horizon Europe that is working on providing several calls and on STEM education in general terms, but also on supporting the teaching and learning of STEM. I think that in general terms, as part of the Digital Education Action Plan, what we are also doing is to promote, as I was saying before, a diversity of approaches to developing digital competencies, but also developing STEM subjects and STEM education. And this is also having an influence on different funding mechanisms, like, for instance, the Recovery and Resilience Facility. So we are seeing, and I just want to underline that that we are still in the evaluation phase or the assessment phase of the plans that have been put forward, but we are seeing ever more often that many member states are using the recovery and facility fundings to support the development of STEM disciplines, subjects, and skills. So I think it's the moment now probably to grasp these opportunities and to carry on enlarging this approach to STEM education. And I'm very happy that I've heard this morning that the approach that you are putting forward is one for inclusiveness and empowerment of every learner and citizen. And with this, I thank you very much.
Ferrari, if you'd like to take a seat, I hope we've got time for a couple of very, very quick questions now that have been coming in from our audience tuning in online. And we have one audience member here, Anuska, who asks, from your perspective, which might be the challenges that would put at risk the plan and vision of the Commission related to STEAM education? I guess in this respect, this is a question about how your policies may become derailed in the future and what would be the causes of them becoming so.
Yeah, I'm not sure they can become derailed in a way, because a policy is a vision. What could happen is that they're not impactful. And for this, there are several challenges that come ahead. Some of the challenges that we are seeing and we're witnessing, relate to the shortage of STEM teachers that we have in Europe. And this is a double problem in a way, if you want, because there is already a shortage of teachers in general terms, so teachers for general education, teachers for different subjects, but this shortage is particularly strong for STEM subjects. So this to me is one of the main challenges that is, that we need to tackle, because obviously good educators are underpinning good competence development, and we cannot escape that. One of the other challenges that I see is that very often when we work in education and training with a larger perspective, with a lifelong learning perspective, there are many initiatives that can be taken at school level. It's a bit more difficult to work at higher education level, but it's even more difficult to work beyond higher education for the education of adults. And this is one of the challenges that we are seeing. So one thing is to raise awareness of the importance of STEAM for young people, which is fundamental, but it's much harder to reach an adult population.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And I can imagine actually going back to what you said in your keynote speech about confidence being a key issue, particularly for young females at school. I suppose it's about training up teachers as well to recognising when they see that, I suppose, crisis of confidence amongst various students in the classroom too. But I guess that's more difficult to note with adult learners, I would imagine.
Yeah, indeed, there are role models that either are there or not there. So I think we're doing a good work right now in trying to underline the stories of women and presenting women as role models, not only, let's say, in the creative sector or in the creative industries sector, but also in the scientific one. And I think we still need to bridge the gap between careers in a way. There are people that are trying to do so by really mixing their scientific background with a more creative one, but I think we're still at the beginning of this.
Okay, great. I think we've got time for one more very, very quick question from the audience here. And one audience member asks, what would be reasonable and feasible to be reached in 5 years' time at the European level related to STEAM education? I guess here, what is the really long-term plan and outcomes?
What is reachable and feasible? That's a very interesting question, and I'm afraid I cannot answer right now because this requires calculations, you know. So I was saying that there is 1 in 3 students that is a woman in STEM subjects and 1 in 5 in ICT. We have targets that have been set for ICT professionals through the digital decade, which is, if you want, a reference framework for the development of digital skills as well. It sets very clear targets. But the target is not something that is discussed in a conversation like this that is spontaneous. It needs to be based on evidence. So I cannot provide a figure. I think that what is reasonable is to provide more training and then to do an assessment of the impact of this training. So we go again back to the idea of changing the policies according to the policy cycle and to the impact that this policy has had. And I think I'm going to insist on that because I think that it's really necessary, especially for education and training, to have an approach that is based on the impact of the policies that are currently there. It's not something that we're good at. So we need to become better in identifying what worked and what didn't work before putting targets that are either not reachable or not useful.
Okay, wonderful. Well, another round of applause, I think, is due for Anuska Ferrari from the Commission's DG for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture there. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us this morning, Anuska.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to zoom straight on and explore a bit more about the STEAM Mon Edu project. So STEAM Mon Edu partners are going to share with us the main results reached over the last 2 years of the project. Before I introduce our first speaker, a reminder to all of you to get more of your questions into us and we shall address them to our speakers at the end of this segment. Firstly, we're going to start with an overview of the project by re-welcoming to the stage Professor Achilles Camillas.
Hello again. Let's wait until the slides are up. As Samuel said already twice today, I am Professor Achilles Camillas from Hellenic Open University in Greece and also working with the Computer Technology Institute in Diophantus. And I am the scientific coordinator of the STEAM Mon Edu project. I'm going to give you an overview of what were the goals of the projects and, most importantly, what are the achievements of this project, which I'm happy to say that are very much in line with what Anuska Ferrari presented before, with many of the things that she presented, not all of them, so there is always opportunity for future projects. STEAM Mon Edu is a project that is about the competence development of STEAM educators through online tools and communities. It's a project that has been funded in the context of Erasmus Plus KA3 program and is now close to the end. It will end at the end of December, this December. Okay, it's coming. No, not yet. No. There. The aims of this project were to raise, to strengthen, to revise and strengthen the professional profile of teachers, of educators, by creating a solid and interdisciplinary base for developing STEAM-related competencies and providing a complete framework and a set of tools that integrate all aspects of teaching STEAMs. Very ambitious aims, but we are happy to say that we have achieved already almost all of them. The partnership that we were happy to work with in the past 1 year and a half, and now I take the opportunity to thank my colleagues in Computer Technology Institute and Press Diophantus in Greece, the coordinating partner, but also my colleagues from Alldigital, from Stati Generali dell'Innovazione, from Italy, from Hollywood Media and Education, from Germany, from Fundacja EOS, from Romania, Collectic from Spain, and the Regional Directorate of Primary and Secondary Education of Western Greece, another partner from Greece. You have all been great. It was great to work with you, and I hope we'll continue our collaboration in the future. In this project, we targeted mainly teachers and educators of all levels and all kinds, but then education and training organizations, researchers, and educational methods and techniques, educational authorities, and of course any other stakeholder that is interested in STEAM education, such as career consultants. You already heard a few what is STEAM education. Let's say that instead of repeating everything that's been heard, I would like to stress here first of all, the aspect of integration. STEM and STEAM is about integrating as many of these disciplines and as many of the competencies that result from these disciplines into the same individual. And the second important aspect is putting them in practice to deal with real-world problems. These are two really important aspects of STEM and STEAM education. As I said already during the opening session of today, this is a changing paradigm of education, STEAM and STEM education. That is why it is complex to apply it, and that is why we need all the efforts and all the support that Anushka was talking about before. And we need more projects like STEAM on Edu. And of course, there are many more projects like STEAM on Edu that are working towards achieving some of these goals, and at some point would have to integrate. But there is a lot of research going on currently, a lot of debate. We'll have some of it today here, and we'll hope that we'll make another step further towards making STEM education a reality. In our project, we have, let's say, we approach the problem from three aspects, the issue from three aspects. First of all, from the community aspect, teachers and educators are placed at the core, at the center, at the focus of our project, but they are not alone. We created a community that the members of the community help each other, exchange knowledge, exchange ideas to go on forward, to become creative. Then we try to identify what is a STEAM educator, what is STEAM education. So we try to give an identity to STEAM educators. We did this by focusing on the competencies in applying STEAM as an educational practice and developing frameworks and tools for this. And finally, based on the above findings, we tried to enable the professional developments of educators via training. We created courses that we delivered. So these are the outcomes of this project. We have achieved almost all of them except the last one, which is the one we're working on. We created a set of tools. First, the STEAM Competence Framework, the first one of its type. And I'm glad to hear Anushka saying that they are working on a similar framework, so perhaps this can serve as an input to them. then we created STEAM educator profiles based on this framework, and I'm using plural here that I will explain later. Based on the framework, also we created a self-assessment tool, a STEAM readiness self-assessment tool. Then we provided the STEAM education integrated framework that includes the community I was talking about before, an online platform to support the community, the STEAM education framework, and a Mooc and blended course to enable professional development, and finally 2 policy instruments, a guide for STEAM educational practices and policies, and the STEAM policy influencer toolkit that is now under development. A few words for the most important of these outcomes, very quickly, because you will hear details later today from my colleagues in the project. The STEAM competence framework integrates 5 perspectives of the teaching profession: educator as a teacher, trainer and tutor, educator as a learning designer and creator, educator as an orchestrator and manager, educator as a community member, and educator as a professional. Within these 5 perspectives, it contains 16 competence areas and 44 competencies, individual competencies. This framework has been designed, has been evaluated, now is under revision. We'll have the final version by the end of the year. And let me say that it integrates digital skills and transferable skills. Okay. The STEAM educators profiles use competencies from the STEAM competence framework. They follow the ESCO structure. They are different per level of education and type of education, primary, secondary, and so on. And we found out that the teachers say that STEAM educators must be supported by auxiliary roles that are not exactly teaching profiles but are needed. Then the self-assessment tool for STEAM readiness, it follows the selfie structure as closely as we could. It is based again on the STEAM competence framework. It provides self-assessment per organization, which means that there is a survey that members of the organization, teachers, educators, at the moment we are focusing on teachers and educators, we are not including yet the students, set of questions, they answer, and then there are mandatory and optional questions, of course, and then a report, the organization gets a report based on aggregating the data that were input in the questionnaire. This is one of our most ambitious outcomes, the STEAM education framework, because it combines different perspectives like the educator's position, the competencies that educator and students should have, making reference, of course, to the competence framework, but then it describes an instructional meta-methodology for teaching STEAM. It contains open educational resources, specifications, and the first body of knowledge related to STEAM education. We produced a guide for what is a good STEAM education practice based on a set of principles and a set of criteria. We evaluated more than 60 practices that were uploaded in the community platform. You will hear about the results later on today, also more details about the criteria we used. We are very proud of the massive online open course we managed to produce and deliver during the spring, this year, spring and summer. This was a course that lasted 6 weeks, and it touched upon most of the competencies of the competence framework. It contained online material, videos, reading material, and so on, and also a set of questions that were that had to be answered in order to move to the next stage and to receive the certificate of successful attendance. It was attended by many, many teachers and educators. This was complemented by a blended course that ran in September this year. It actually finished a few days ago, in which some of the educators who successfully completed the Mooc had the opportunity to go deeper into more detail for some of the competencies and work in a participatory way and collaborative way to develop new STEAM activity templates and new STEAM policies. All this was supported by our online platform, which hosted the online community of STEAM educators. The platform is open to anybody who is interested to register. You don't have to be a member of the project partners. It already has more than 200 members and is still growing. There's a lot of material in the platform, many practices. Also the photo contest that you will hear about it later today took place in the platform and was also used during the Mooc and the blended course as let's say a place where students, trainees could do their projects. So This summarizes the achievements of STEAM on Edu project. You can find more information about our project in this website, steamonedu.eu, or by following us on Facebook or on Twitter. We'd be happy to welcome you in our platform, because this is the main tool, the main environment through which you can access the outcomes of the project and be a member of this community. I wish you will enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you for being here. Thanks again to my colleagues and my collaborators. And the floor back to Samuel.
Thank you. Round of applause there. Thank you very much for Professor Achilles Kamias' introduction there to the STEAM Mon Edu project. And one of the results of the STEAM Mon Edu project refers to the community of practice that has been created and supported over the past 3 years. I would like now to invite Esther Sobias, Project Manager at Collectic, a non-profit organisation that works for social transformation through the participation, learning and socialisation of ICT. Esther is the Director of the Postgraduate Studies in Ecosystems in Digital Learning, Innovation in Training at Barcelona University, and she's also Ambassador of Technovation Girls in Spain. Joining her is Paolo Russo, General Secretary at Stati Generali dell'Innovazione and President at CR-Hack Lab F4D in Italy. He promoted the Crowd Dreaming Youth Co-Create Digital Culture Contest, and he also coordinates it. Paolo and Esther are now going to tell us a bit about the STEAM Mon Edu community of practice.
Hi, and thank you very much for having this opportunity to present our amazing project and now to focus on the STEAM community of practice. It has been a pleasure to participate with Paolo and the other partners that you may meet today in this amazing project. Now we are going to focus in 4 sections of this presentation. We are going to talk about the benefits of being part of a STEAM on Edu community, because we really want you to join. We will also talk about sharing knowledge and resources. Paolo will explain us what's a COPE, community of practices, and then we will take a look very, very quickly on the platform. So let's start. Benefits of being part of a STEAM community. Let's see if I can make you to be involved before the end of this presentation. Yeah, virtual communities at the end are social aggregations that are coming from internet, and they need that there is enough people willing to discuss, to talk about one topic. And it's all about meeting with another persons that you share interest with them. No, it's about building personal relationships in the space, no, in the cyberspace, let's say. So when we focus on educational virtual community, we talk about a community of people that is amazing, and they are very focused on the topic of education as trainers, educators, policy providers, policy makers, people that wants the education to be better in some way. You know, it's about communicating and interacting with these profiles you share. With the ones you share interests. So there are many typologies of communities, of educational communities. You have social networks where all of us are today on Twitter or LinkedIn talking about this amazing summit, but also other topics. We also have the blogs, any very different platforms like multiple user dialogue or virtual research community, and also communities of practice, which Paolo will focus. And yeah, a STEAM on Edu platform is this kind of community. It's a community of practice. We will explain you very, very soon. The characteristic is, you know, having members, a common goal. This is very important. A feeling of belonging. That's the way. That's why we invite you to join us and to feel that this is your community. That where you can express yourself, dialogue, talk with other persons, share your worries, and publish, of course, content. We have some rules, of course. This is key. It's a key on the communities, and you know, on this kind of communities, you can have or play different roles. You have the leaderships. You have here all the partners of Timon Edu partners are leading this community, so they are taking care of everybody and making the conversation going on. You can also act to moderate the dialogues and also just participate. So it's up to you the role you will take when you get inside our community. The key to success is make the communication to flow and to be adequate, feel that you belongs to this community, try to self-manage your content as much as possible, have the freedom to participate, and yeah, have a good infrastructure, which is offered by this amazing project, Testimonedu. That's something that we can guarantee. It's a very good infrastructure where you can develop your interest. You also can meet and dialogue with other colleagues around Europe and outside of Europe, because we have members of all kinds of countries, and yeah, talk about the STEAM, which is supposed to be something that encourage you, that interests you. You will be able to know others' experiences, as has happened during the Mooc, but more intensively during the community, inside the community, during the time you participate. And you will also have find some amazing and inspiring activities and examples. You will be able to find experiences of all kinds with different profiles of people, students, participants, teenagers, children. A lot of content is there. And of course, we are waiting for you to share your experiences. You will be able to disseminate your own activities, your own training courses. You will find support to prepare new activities or new trainings, and we all together will be able to join the others' efforts to promote STEAM, which is our common goal. Of course, you will find people very interesting and very professional, which ones you can start to build new activities and training actions if you want. So to sum up, I'm focused on STEAM specifically. You will be able to share knowledge, ideas, problems, difficulties, doubts, questions, queries. You will be able to share suggestions or just talk about STEAM, STEAM things, activities, experiences, what had happened into your community, or you are curious and you want to ask for more information about them. Of course, in this community, you will find also sources, bibliographical references. We have some doctors, some specialists, some researchers that are willing to offer their expertise. You will find also another kind of reference of professionals references, sources, information about software that you can use if you are willing to start a STEAM activity, and of course about digital repositories. We are very rich, and if you are interested in knowing them, we can also help you and offer some information. So more or less resources, activities, training courses that have been already developed or are being designed, so you can contribute to that. It's also as useful for the others if you are in this community, if you are part of this community, because the others will provide you recognition, feedback, and help if you need it. So it's also interesting. Is belonging to a community is not just to listen, but also to participate and get credit and get feedback and help when you need it. Here, there's a screenshot of our community, our platform, where you can post and share information about the activities you have developed and classify them, and also you can find activities by using our search tool. That is very, very interesting. Paolo, I think I have talked a lot, so I think it's time for you to go. What do you think?
No, don't worry. You've been very, very comprehensive in your presentation. And basically, I have just to make an exhortation to the participant. That's my role. But before giving you back the microphone, but in the meantime, maybe you might want to check on the screen sharing, because I could see only the PowerPoint program, not the actual slides. So I don't know whether it was just my issue or everybody's. And in the meantime, I can just talk, and because in the next slides you will have some numbers to show. Now, my role is just to stress that a community of practice is characterized by practice. So yes, you can go to the next slide. Thank you, Esther. So not every community is a community of practice. Of course, it is very important to share the same field of interest, the same domain of knowledge. Of course, it is important to participate, asking questions, but the most important thing is that you are supposed to practice. So just to make an example, if an online community of fans of a rock band, you name one, Dire Straits, Måneskin, whatever you like, if they go there just to talk about their music, that's not a community of practice. You are supposed to play covers of these bands, to organize gigs together, to meet, so to use the community to practice together. This is the most important thing in a community of practice, and luckily it is something that we are already seeing happening in the STEAM on Edu community. So please, the next slide. Thank you, Esther, and I thank you, very, very kind. And this is very kind of you. And basically, I don't want to spend many more words about it, because Esther already said it. Our community of practice is very, very useful to network among you. All of you know each other in the same country. All the STEAM practitioners know each other in the STEAM country very often, but they don't. But you don't know each other at a European level. And this is something that the STEAM on Edu community practice can really add to your experience. So I think I covered it all on my side. Esther, thank you for advancing my slides, and back to you.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry that I didn't show my presentation, but okay, it's available for those who want to check later on, I guess. So I guess Alldigital will share the presentations with everybody.
Thank you very much, Paolo and Esther there. And yes, we will make sure to get hold of that presentation and share it with all of our audience members more widely. But thank you again to both of you for your breakdown of the STEAM on Edu community of practice there. Up next, we have Mikhail.
Let us just, we have a couple of slides. It's possible for us to share right now
we can have a quick look. We can have a very quick look. Sure.
It's just for inviting the others to see that our STEAM on Edu community is very big. We have more than 700 members. And that, we will have a lot, we have already a lot of activities that are posted there and that you are free to reuse and modify in some cases, most of them. We also have policies and a lot of discussions on the forum. So thank you very much for your attention. We have finished now and see you very soon. Let's continue with the presentation today.
Wonderful. Thank you very much again, Paolo and Esther, there for joining us this afternoon. Up next, we have Mikhail Jakub, researcher in education at EOS, Educating for an Open Society, Romania. Formerly, he worked within the Institute of Educational Sciences in Bucharest, and he is currently pursuing PhD studies at the university. He's going to share with us the STEAM education framework developed within the STEAM Mon Edu project. Mikhail, do we have you on the line?
Yes, sorry. Just,
wonderful, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay,
that's great.
Just let me... Okay. Is everything okay? Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can indeed.
Okay, good. I'll be very quick about it, though it is quite an information-heavy presentation. The STEAM on Edu framework is one of the key components of the project. And it aims to bring together some of the defining elements of STEAM education in order to present them in a synthetic overview. And its aim is to enable policymakers and other stakeholders to better design educational programs with STEAM at their core. The part that I took care of had 5 components. And the first one was defining what is STEAM education. The second one tried to map the educator's position. The third one tried to cover teachers and students' competencies. The fourth one, we called it a methodology, a meta-reflection on instructional methods for STEAM education. And finally, we looked at professional development for STEAM educators. And what I will do now, I will run very briefly through these elements. The STEAM education is a natural development of STEM education, and its proponents consider that STEM did not, by not explicitly mentioning our creative and aesthetic side, it somehow diminished our presence and our engagement with the world. So in order to support and encourage learner agency, arts were added. What arts mean within the STEAM education, that is up for debate. There are many ways of looking at it, from a minimalist approach where arts are just creativity, to a maximalist approach when arts are integrated and have their own set of descriptors and achievement descriptors. There are 2 spellings which you will see in many references, both gray literature and academic literature. For STEAM, we opted for STEAM with the A in parentheses, not to doubt the role of the arts, but to reflect the tensions that are associated with its addition to STEM. The second part is dedicated to the educator position. As anyone who has attempted to create a STEAM program, you have found yourselves entangled in a very complex arrangement of policies and stakeholders. And this has been mapped not just by this product, but also more in depth through others. For example, policies, they have within our project their own separate document. The educator's position was also mapped through the Competence framework. We also looked at how competencies are understood. After my presentation, you'll have an in-depth look at the STEAMcom. This is a framework which grew out of a questionnaire that was aimed at STEM educators, but the project took it and expanded it and validated it within the 5 partner countries. Also, we wanted to look at how students' competencies are mapped. And while there is no reference to STEAM competencies as a whole, there are other frameworks which have been proposed, some of them by the JRC, the European Union's Joint Research Center, that cover parts of this. The instructional methodology looks at instructional methods, and it has 4 parts. It looks at learning design principles. It looks at curricular approaches. It looks at the main teaching methods that were proposed for different activities. And finally, it offers some reflections on how suitable these methods are. We looked through the academic literature and tried to glean some of the what are the more appropriate methods that would enable you to have STEAM education rather than just STEM education. And finally, we looked at the professional development. As STEAM being new, it needs its own training apparatus. And as mentioned by Professor Kameas earlier, the STEAM on Edu project attempted to link to create a STEAM educator's competence profile that was linked to the ESCO framework. And this would make the STEAM educator as a profession or as a support a professional more readily certified across the union. And finally, but not less important, we stressed the importance of the educator's agency within their own continuous professional development, and because STEAM education needs to question its own contribution to education. STEAM education is not just a fad. It has to prove its own worth. And educators must be empowered to make their own decision regarding the opportunity to participate in this endeavor, because there are very different, the education systems across Europe are quite different. But I come from Romania, which has a very top-down approach. And I know that this is not the only case. So STEAM education has also the opportunity to promote this educator agency in taking ownership of their own professional development. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mihai, for telling us a bit about the STEAM education framework. Now, one of the main results of the STEAM on Edu project is related to the definition of the educator's profile adopting STEAM approaches and the self-assessment STEAM, which we'll now hear a bit more about from Natalia Spiropoulou, researcher at the Computer and Technology Institute and Press Diophantus in Greece. She is a member of the Dynamic Ambient Intelligent Social Systems and part of CTI research team involved in STEAM Mon Edu. Natalia, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to present some of the main results of the STEAM Mon Edu project, which are related to the Educator's Competence Framework for STEAM educators that have been developed. During this presentation, I will present the need, the development methodology, and the scope of the STEAM Competence Framework for STEAM educators. Then I will present in more detail the structure and contents of the framework and some of the practical uses of it during the project, which includes the training program for STEAM educators, the Geoprofiles development, and the self-assessment tool for STEAM education. So we decided to follow a competence-based perspective with the development of the STEAM competence framework with the aim to support educators' preparation in STEAM education, as the approach of STEAM education has created the need for education system reform, and better preparation of educators is one of the main challenges for this required reform. As teaching strategies are changing, educators need to update the competence profiles to face these approaches. And as STEAM education is quite new, there is limited consideration of the challenges that the educators face, while guidance for educators in terms of how to effectively teach STEAM-related courses is still lacking. In general, competence frameworks and profiles assist in effective learning and development by identifying the knowledge, skills, and abilities necessary for successful performance in a job. More specific, educators' competence profiles are also used to promote best practices, provide educators with a clear focus of goal settings for professional growth and efficiency, and also can help as a guide for educator training and professional development activities. So in order to develop this competence framework, a methodology was followed, which include multiple phases. Some of them include desk and field research to align with professional development requirements in different countries and levels of education, activities that were performed through the STEAM Mon Edu community during the first year of the project. We also exploit European competence framework, such as the European Framework for the Digital Competencies of Educators, the Edu, related procedures regarding STEAM education teaching competency, the European Framework of Teacher Competencies, the report of the STEAM competence for the 21st century by UNESCO. It has two specific aims. The first one is to be usable by educators for self-evaluation purposes as a self-assessment tool in order to educators evaluate themselves and find specific competencies that they need to improve. And the second one is to support professional development of STEAM educators, both as a guide for the formulation of the learning outcomes of specific training programs, and also as an assessment tool for the evaluation of the training programs. Here we can see the structure of the framework. At the top level, we have perspectives, which represent the different roles that the educator have. Each perspective includes one or more areas in which a set of competencies that have related topic are grouped. So we developed a competence framework, which is a complete set of competencies following a holistic approach with various perspectives and by accommodating several roles of the STEAM educator, such as teacher, content creator, instructional designer, manager. We have 5 specific perspectives, 16 competency areas, and 44 different competencies. Here is the overview of the perspectives and all the 16 competency areas. Going deeper in the framework, the first perspective represents the educator as teacher, training, and tutor, and includes all the required educator competencies during an educational procedure that helps students learn. It includes different 6 competency areas: pedagogy, content knowledge, instruction, use of content tools, feedback and assessment, and learning empowerment. The second perspective is the educator as a learning designer and creator, which include competencies related to planning, preparing, and developing educational procedures, learning activities and content that are needed in different phases, and also all the supported competencies which aim to facilitate learner development regarding STEAM competencies. The third perspective represents the role of educator as orchestrator and manager. It includes competencies related to managing and orchestrating the education procedures, the content and the digital technologies, the lab, its equipment, and also group of students or group of educators during collaborative learning activities. The fourth perspective now represents the role of educator as a community member. It has competencies related to interacting and engaging with institutional, business, and other STEAM-related communities, and also to apply policies that promote STEAM education. And finally, we have the fifth perspective, which represents educator as a professional and includes competencies related to their professional development alongside transferable and also digital skills that are needed during STEAM-related activities. The evaluation of the framework was a really important task during its development phase. As a result, we designed a two-phase evaluation. Educators, researchers, school managers, directors, and policymakers with STEAM education experience at all levels of education from different organizations and geographic regions participate in it. More than 300 participants from more than 20 countries from all over the world participate with both qualitative and quantitative feedback. We are now working on the updated and final version of the framework based on the community feedback that will be available at the end of this year. The framework is an important outcome of the project and was exploited and also connected with other project tasks. Some of the practical application of the framework during the project include the professional development program for STEAM educators, including a blended course and the massive open online course. Also, the STEAM educator profiles following the rules of ESCO framework, and also the STEAM self-assessment tool for educational organization and educators. Well, at first, we utilized the framework in order to be used as a guide for the design of the professional development program for STEAM educators, which includes a Mooc and a blended course. The framework was also used as educational content during the Mooc on the professional development competency area. More information about the training program will be presented in the following presentation. So I will continue with the next one, which is the Geoprofiles for STEAM education, which were developed based on the framework and with the use of community discussion during both Mooc and blended learning. The main Geoprofiles are based on the teaching level or type of educators, while some other auxiliary roles are identified, such as the STEAM pedagogy expert, the STEAM technology expert, STEAM educator's assistant, and also STEAM ambassador. As I said, these Geoprofiles follow the ESCO rules. Finally, we have the STEAM self-assessment tool for STEAM education. The framework also used here to design, develop this tool for educational organization and educators to assess their readiness regarding STEAM education. The tool is following Selfie tool and Selfie for teachers as best practices, which are initiatives of the European Commission and help school and teachers assess where they stand with learning in the digital age. As the Selfie tool, this tool is a web-based tool. It's also a questionnaire-based tool where the questions are based on the STEAM competence framework. Also, no personal data is collected while it produces reports based on the specific results. It is designed to involve the key actors of the school community, which include directors, teachers, and also students. The aim of this tool is to support education organizations and educators in assessing and improving their STEAM education policies and practices. In addition, it helps to understand its strengths and weaknesses, to plan for improvement, and better support educators and students in order to implement STEAM education programs successfully. In this image, we can see the structure of the STEM self-assessment tool. The core body of the questionnaire includes items which properly form based on the STEAM competency framework. These items are obligatory, while there are some optional items so that the questionnaire can be customized based on the needs of each educational organization. Some optional items are based on the digital competence framework for organization, and then it is also possible to add some custom items where each user can create their own questions. Also, during the registration of the school, some data about the school profile are collected, with also some additional demographic data. And the tool actually anonymously collects educational organization leaders, teachers, and students' opinions on how STEAM is used in their organization. At this point, we have focused on teachers, and we have the questionnaire for teachers, but at the end of the year, the final version of the tool will include also questions for directors and students. Teachers and students will be asked about their practice and experience, while school leaders will be asked about policies and strategies in their school. Here we can see the platform. It is online and you can easily access through the link of the first version of the platform. It includes pages with all the general information about the tool, some general guides and some reports, sample reports. Here we can see the setup of the questionnaire with tabs, all the questions categorized based on the 5 perspectives and competency areas. The questions are close-ended questions with a simplified Likert scale. So based on the questionnaire results, the tool after the end of the active period generates a report with the results using graphs. The results are provided per role, directors, teachers, students, and per perspectives, per areas, and also per item. And the report can be also saved in a PDF format. The first pilot use of this first version for teachers was used during the blended course of the training program with educators. The educators had to use it and evaluate it based on a specific questionnaire regarding its usability, content, and about the generated report. Educators also commented about potential improvements, and based on the input of the final version will be based on this input, we will develop the final version. Here we can see also some examples of the comments where educators find it useful and easy. And also we can see that they recommend to be translated in European languages in order to be more accessible to educators. For now, it's only on English. So this was the main results about the competence framework. All the results will be available on the official project site on the results page, and also you can see the link for the tool. So thank you for listening to my presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed, Natalia, for your presentation there on the STEAM competence framework. And as you referenced there in your presentation, we're now going to move on to looking at the training program that has been developed within the STEAM Mon Edu project for educators. For this cause, let's welcome Anastasios Iosifidis, Senior Researcher at the Computer and Technology Institute and Press Diophantus in Greece. His background is within computer engineering, and he has been collaborating with the Hellenic Open University since 2010 as a lecturer researcher within international projects. His fields of research are IoT and STEM education. Anastasios, if you'd like to take the floor.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me and you can see me. I would like to ask Natalia to stop her sharing so that I can share my presentation. Okay, thank you very much. So, hello everybody. I hope that you can see my presentation. What I'm going to present here today is the training program of the STEAM on Edu project, entitled Design, Orchestration, and Implementation of STEAM Education. Now, first thing is that I'm going to describe what I'm going to say to you. After an introduction regarding the background of the training program, I'm going to provide a description of the massive open online course that was created and realized during the STEAM on Edu project, and then a brief description of the blended course. Finally, I would like to give you some statistics and the assessment of the participants from the first implementation of the MOOC program. Now, let's see some things about the background and the way that the training program has been developed. First of all, I have to say that the training program is based on the STEAM on Edu competence framework that Natalia has just described, and which we can see here in full view with the 5 main perspectives and the areas around each perspective and the specific competencies, which are these more cycles. Now, this was a puzzle for us how to provide all these competencies to the participants. However, after a good design, we managed to create a Moodle, a MOOC that focuses on 3 specific competencies of the educator as a teacher and trainer tutor perspective, 3 competencies of the perspective of the educator as learning designer and creator, all the competencies of the educator as orchestrator and manager, 3 competencies of the educator as community member, and 2 more with dealing with professional development of the educators. All these summed up make 18 modules, 18 competencies, 16 modules, 16 competencies, which are complemented by 2 more modules, informative modules on digital skill and transferable skill. So this is in general what the MOOC provides. On top of this, the blended course delves into course and activity design on career guidance and learner development, as well as design and creation of policies, together with the STEAM self-assessment tool that Natalia has just described, and the STEAM educator profiles, a discussion on STEAM educator profiles. Now, who is the training program for? The training program is for anybody who is interested in STEAM education, and by anybody we mean active educators, managers or directors of education, as well as students or graduates. All of them have to need to have an EQF 6 degree or to be in the last year of pursuing one, and their background should be general knowledge of pedagogy and educational practice, and of course some standard skills on information systems and computing, so that to follow the MOOC platform. The participation to the MOOC is free. However, for the blended course, the participants were selected following some specific procedures for the MOOC participants that have received the MOOC certificate, that have fulfilled the MOOC successfully. Now, the methodology for the design and development of the training program was the ADI methodology, meaning analysis, design, development, implementation, and assessment. Assessment that took place in all intermediate steps, and a summative assessment, so that to satisfy all, to be sure that the quality of result will be high. Now, this meant that we had to work for 9 months, and we had over 30 meetings dedicated to the training program, and over 40 people have been cooperating all this period to deliver the training program. Among them, we had authors, technical or scientific reviewers, speakers, tutors, 2 coordinators, one of which was myself, and 2 expert engineers for technical support. Now, let's move on with a a description of the massive online open online course. The MOOC was delivered via the CTI Moodle platform and included, as we have already described, 18 modules. Each module had some units, consisted of several units. In total, we had 50 units, and each unit included one or more learning objects, in total 125 learning objects, out of which most were self-running presentations, but also activity or interview videos, study documents, and 12 form topics for interaction of the participants among them. The estimated workload was 5 or 6 hours per week for a duration of 6 weeks. However, in the first implementation, we have added a preliminary week before the beginning of the program and a leap week, a gap bit in the middle of the program, so that's to allow participants to catch up. Now, here is the first perspective that was discussed in the first week. As we can see, there are a lot of competencies that had to do with the educator as teacher, trainer, and tutor. However, most of these competencies have already been attained by educators, like instruction, learning empowerment, feedback and assessment, in their normal education studies. So what we try to do here is to select these competencies that we feel are the most important in the STEAM approach. And this have to do with content knowledge, pedagogic, and content and tools use. In fact, we start this week with what STEAM represents and means. What is STEAM? What are convergent skills, divergent skills, interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, etc. And then we move on with techniques, learning and teaching, that foster critical thinking and creativity, that are important to important skills to teach in schools, and some steps to create a STEAM classroom, etc. Finally, in this week, we discussed methods for selection of tools and content, and provided examples and use cases that can be used for the STEAM approach, in the STEAM approach. The second week deals with the perspective of the educator as learning designer and creator. Here we focused on 3 specific competencies, while 2 others have been covered by the blended learning course program. Now here, first of all, we deal with activity design and course design. What are the design principles in STEAM? What steps we have to follow? If there are any risks, what opportunities came out of the audience, how we can assure that the quality is high, and what should be the assessment methods, etc. And in addition, we had some methods, tips, and tools that can be used for content creation in the context of STEAM education, such as Turtle Coder, Scratch, and Minecraft. Third and fourth week covered the perspective of the educator as orchestrator and manager. We had decided that 2 weeks are necessary for this perspective because this is quite important, very important in the context of STEAM approach. And when we are talking about orchestration and manager, we first have to do with management of the educational procedure. And this means teaching organization methods like time management, getting things done methodology, or strategies, inquiry-based or other strategies, and methods that can be used for creating effective lesson plans, as well as classroom management methods, like how we can assess the emotional setting of the classroom to create a student-oriented classroom, as well as handle unexpected situation or take disciplinary actions, how we can organize the space of the classroom. The second week of this perspective had to do with resource management. And when we are talking about resources, we have educational resources, laboratory resources, and human resources. And first of all, we have to see how we can work with educational resources, what are their types, how we can classify them, what has to be taken care of regarding copyright, sensitive content, etc. Then we tried to approach how labs can be organized, and how we can create a laboratory culture to the students, and how we can handle technical problems regarding lab management methods. Finally, and most importantly, probably, we needed to discuss human resource management methods, collaboration and communication of teachers, of educators, and with other educators, or educators with professionals, or educators with academics is very important in the context of team approach. So we discussed specific methods like the working out loud method and the Scrum collaborative method that facilitate management and communication among the ones that create and deliver STEAM content. The fifth week had to do with the educator as a community member, which is the fourth perspective of the STEAM competence profile. Here we started with what is a community of practice and what are the most important rules of online communities, netiquette, psychology of digital age, etc. And then we delved into citizen science and other business communities with specific examples and use cases. Finally, we discussed policies, education policies in the context of STEAM, public policies, drivers, trends, national and international policies, as well as how we can create impactful messages advocating STEAM approach. The last week first had dealt with research activities. So how an educator can be a researcher, participate in research. So we have discussed about research methods, reporting, dissemination, ethics, etc., and lifelong learning as well. And then we had two informative modules, one on digital skills, like DigComp Edu, DigComp, European Skills Agenda, the manifesto, the AD manifesto of digital competencies, etc., as well as the selfie tool. And then finally, we provided some guidance of how transferable skills can be attained, giving focus on critical thinking, information management, communication, and ethics. And this was the MOOC program. Now let's move on with a brief, shorter description of the blended course, which was designed to have a nominal duration of 3 weeks, again through the CTI Moodle platform. However, in this case, we used other platforms as well, like the Learning Activity Management System platform, the SET, the self-assessment tool for STEAM that was been described by Natalia before, Zoom for online sessions, and of course the community platform of STEAM on Edu that has been described earlier. Now, in this case, we had online sessions, self-running presentations, study documents, and most importantly, assignments and activities that required increased workload by the participants. So in fact, the workload of this was an intensive program with around 10 hours per week necessary for the participants to fulfill all the requirements. Now, the basic contents were the use of LAMs, of a specific tool, so that to create sequences of learning activities and educational scenarios. Then student career guidance and STEAM careers in the context of learner development techniques. After this, we have discussed the STEAM evaluation tool, and participants have assessed this STEAM evaluation tool that we have created. And we have discussed about ESCO profiles and the educator profile design. Finally, we have provided them with tools, methods that can be used so that to promote STEAM policies and to create STEAM policies, at least at the local level, but it's the first step so that to understand policies in general and to participate in policy creation and application. Finally, in the blended course, we have invited 2 experts so that to present their views on STEM and STEAM and allow participants to attain a broader understanding, broader view, or complementary view to the one that has been developed by the STEAM on Edu project. Now, let's have a look as a last step at the statistics of the first implementation of the MOOC and what in fact the participants achieved and how did they evaluate the course. Now, on the left side, we can see the participants' activity when we have drawn the views and the posts of the participants during the duration of the MOOC that started May 16. This was the preliminary week and ended by July 11, although the MOOC was left open until end of August. We can see what is, for me, is astonishing to see is that, okay, we have 400,000 views, but this is not something not usual in such case of platform. What was very important is that we had almost 60,000 posts in the forum topics that in the 12 forum topics or other posts that the participants have created. 400 of them almost participated in the MOOC, and out of them 377 completed more than one of the 18 assessments. 229 of them gained the certificate, received the certificate by because they managed to have more than 75% in the evaluation in all the evaluation, all the assessment modules. Now, let's see, we have provided them with questionnaires before and after the MOOC, and let's see some results. But first, let's have a look at the profile of the responders. We had 261 responses. Out of them, 8% or more were female. And as we can see, the participants and the responders of the MOOC mostly were from primary and secondary schools and preschool ages. But in addition, we have some participants from higher education, non-formal education, as well as adult education and managers. Most of the people were Greek, Romanian, Italian, and Spanish, but we had some people out of Europe as well. As we can see, the participants, most participants had a master's degree. Most of them were between 35 and 54, this almost 80% of them, while in accordance with this, their teaching experience were more than, almost 80% of them have a teaching experience more than 10 years. What did they gain most? This was one of the most important questions. And they believe that through the MOOC, 85% of them through the MOOC gained new skills, even more new knowledge, and even more access to educational resources. So what will they be able to do with all this they gained? According to their opinion, they can apply what they have learned in a very high percentage to their everyday work in classroom, and they can improve their current job over 80%. However, it is not that easy, although a lot of them, more than 2 out of 3, believe that they can change things in their organization. This is not that easy as to apply what they have learned. And from our statistics, we can find that it is even difficult to change things in a broader perspective than their organization. And let's have an idea of what was the Mooc evaluation by providing just four diagrams regarding the organization, the quality and suitability of the material, the platform, and the tutors. Now, regarding, as we can see, more than 90% of them were very happy with the organization in modules, activities, weeks, etc. And we're talking about with the Likert scale, where 1 has low and 5 has high. As we can see, 90% of them were very happy with the organization, and almost 90% of them were very happy with the material quality and stability for achieving the course objectives. Now, almost 90% again, more than 85%, have found that the system, the platform was easy to use. They could learn easily to use it. They felt confident using them, and they would like to use this frequently. And again, regarding the tutors, which was an additive effort of the projects to support the MOOC, we can see that more than 85% of them are very happy with the approachability and the availability of the tutors. Now, we have some, in addition to this, we have gathered their personal views in simple text, and we can see that the strong points agreed with the statistics, because the strong points, they feel that they think the strong points are organization, structure, consistency and quality of material, examples and practical advice, the resources, and of course, useful knowledge. Working at own pace, at own space is something that MOOC environments provide anyway. The major weak points, as stated by the participants, was the language. They would prefer to have the MOOC in their own language, and this was difficult for them and increased the workload to more than 6 hours per week in some cases. And another thing that was mentioned by the participant is the timing, because the MOOC has taken place from May to July, which is a period, it's the ending period of a difficult, stressful year due to COVID-19. All in all, I have to say that the training program was based in the STEAM Comp education framework, and with well-established design and development methodology, it focused on critical competencies for STEAM educators. And as far as we understand from the statistics and the results, the first implementation was very successful, and this gives us strength to go on and probably repeat the MOOC and design other MOOCs in the same context. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you to Athanasios for your presentation on the training program for STEAM Mon Edu there. And to those of you who would like to revisit some of the presentations you have seen so far, they will all be uploaded to the Summit website over at summit.all-digital.org. So feel free to have a bit of an explore over there. And also a reminder for all of you to write in your questions to us, and we shall raise them with our speakers shortly after our final presentation, which is focused on how the STEAM Mon Edu project looks at policies within the field of STEAM education. For this, I would like to invite to the stage Claudia Matera, Project and Fundraising Officer at Alldigital.
Thank you, Samuel. Hi, everyone. So in 2012, I've designed and developed my first video game for iPad with my indie gaming company. My education background is in contemporary history of art, and at that time I ended up in questioning myself, how can I develop an app? Which software to use? How to ensure accessibility and usability? What kind of resources do I need? How to create an engaging experience to an international audience? So I was moving from a letter A into the STEM world. Years later, gaming became a huge market for careers, and so I felt less alone. But it was extremely rare to meet a female software engineer. So when our keynote speaker, Anushka Ferrari, was telling the numbers of female graduating within STEM and STEAM, that's, also the fields that I came from, in a way, from my story. So gaming is one of the best examples of STEAM and the combination of the two components, the art and STEM. So reflecting on the existing policies that are relevant for STEAM education, we can recognize the will to multiplicate and to facilitate professional experiences similar to mine, and back to what Anushka Ferrari just said earlier today. And so foster women within STEM careers and subjects. So it has already mentioned, and I will just quickly remind, the Digital Education Action Plan, which clearly set the strategic priorities to foster the high-performing digital education ecosystem that we need than digitally competent and confident educators and education and training staff. So, of course, within STEM disciplines, these would be needed to enhance, in general, the digital skills and competencies for the digital age, and so supporting the provision of basic digital skills and competencies from an early age, which is relevant to provide that kind of confidence in operating within the field, and promote advanced digital skills development for jobs and careers. So, also, Anuska Ferrari was referring to the presence of women within STEM and the activities also that the Commission is supporting. For instance, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, and in general, the EU STEM Coalition. These are ways to promote the development of a new higher education curricula for engineering and ICT based on the STEAM approach. Overall, this objective works nicely in combination with the European Skills Agenda that has included STEM as one of the 12 actions identified to carry on. It is quite evident that these actions have the aim of contributing to develop skills and jobs in a green and digital economy, which bring us in considering STEM within the contemporary context we're living in. So modern societies have started being focused on sustainability aspects, putting under the light the climate change challenge. In other words, the green transition requires citizens with green and entrepreneurship skills to be developed in combination with core skills and, of course, transversal and soft skills. Earlier today, we've started diving into these aspects, and later today, it will be discussed further in the panel, but also later on. So STEAM education can be interpreted as an approach to practically translate the green and digital transition in our everyday life, and at the same time to enhance sustainable competitiveness at economic level, ensuring social fairness and building on resilience, which is in line with the digital compass. So the digital compass is the vision of the European digital transformation by 2030 that has been presented at the beginning of the year. It identifies 4 cardinal points: skills, infrastructures, business, and government, focusing on gender convergence, educating at least the 80% of the population to the basic digital skills, providing a climate-neutral technological infrastructure everywhere, engaging companies within this process and facilitating the switch of the public services for citizens into digital tools and platforms. When talking about STEAM within policies, it's relevant to mention the Council recommendation of 22nd May 2018 on key competencies for lifelong learning, which underlines the competence needs due to technological infrastructure and service-based society we are within, and the current overall level of knowledge and skills citizens and educators have. We might refer to the data collected by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, the Programme for International Student Assessment, or the OECD Programme for the International Assessment of Adult Competencies, which have highlighted a lack of skills among both teenagers and adults across Europe. It is also relevant to underline the reflection on the learning approaches and methodologies to adopt, such as inquiry-based, project-based, blended arts and games-based learning, which increase engagement, motivation, and learning itself. We will explore examples of best practices later today, hearing from teachers within the STEAM on Edu community of practice the impact of these approaches and methodologies on their students. Related with the schooling system, the communication from the Commission to the European Parliament, the Council, the European Economic and Social Committee, and the Committee of Regions, which is titled School Development and Excellent Teaching for a Great Start in Life, referred to STEM education, stimulated the exchange of best practices and promoting cooperation of higher education, research, businesses with schools, with the Erasmus Plus funding. In fact, as again Anuska Ferrari shared with us, the Erasmus Plus program guide, which is the union program for education, training, youth and sport, has included a priority in promoting the development of national STEM strategies, developing partnerships between schools and again businesses, higher education, research institutions and the wide society to promote effective and innovative pedagogies and assessment, promoting the STEM approach to education through interdisciplinary teaching of STEM in cultural, economical, environmental, design and other contexts with the involvement of all academic discipline. This is linked also with what Professor Achilles Cameas was saying in terms of having the integration of these skills all together. Within this scenario, then, the European education area operates as the point of reference for union member states with the focus on the quality in education and training, the inclusion and gender equality, in building resilient and looking forward education and training systems in line with the approach of the Next Generation EU and the COVID-19 recovery plan, facing the digital and green transitions, supporting teachers and trainers with European guidance for national career frameworks and European Innovative Teaching Award, and higher education programs for upskilling, making sure that education has a geopolitical dimension. So the vision of the education profession within the European area is one of the highly competent and motivated educators who can benefit from a range of support and professional development opportunities throughout their varied careers. There is a need for a highly competent, enthusiastic and committed professional workforce, and the first aim is to overcoming teachers' shortages, which is an issue that many EU countries are facing, either within STEM or when addressing learners with special needs. So STEM education promotes a more holistic approach in learning, careers and life, and the recommendation on the upskilling pathways reinforce the need to upskill educators to engine the digital and green transition. So policies address STEM education from the competence perspective in stimulating union members to include within their curricula STEM subjects and approaches for educating the future education for a more inclusive and then sustainable and so better world. Thank you. Samuel, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think a round of applause for Claudia there. Why not? Yes, absolutely. And a big thank you to Claudia and all of our speakers there for giving us an insight into the specificities of the STEM Mon Edu project. We haven't quite finished yet, though, with this specific project because we have a couple of minutes left for questions from the audience that have been coming through that I would like to raise with some of our speakers. And we have one here for Natalia, if she is still on the line. Maybe we can bring her back in one moment through the magic of the World Wide Web. Natalia, thank you. Thank you for staying with us. We have one question here that's come in from the audience, and a question member asks, what is the importance of having included the manager coordinator role within your framework?
It's very important actually, because a very important problem that a lot of educators have during when they try to implement STEM education into the classroom is that they need to manage the time in order to implement all the different tasks based on a specific school curriculum and the different hours that each classroom has. And also as a STEAM educator, you have to have different equipments. You need to have a lab, and there is also, it's very important to have some skills in order to manage and organize all this different equipment. And also it is a specific area for the human resources management and orchestrator, because STEAM education has a lot of teamwork approaches, and not only for the students, but also for educators. They need to collaborate in order to implement STEAM education. So it's a really important perspective, as we believe, and we saw through the research that we have done.
Yeah, and just while you're still with us, I'd like to pose one more question to you that's come through from the audience. And after that, we're going to take a short coffee break. But we have an audience member who asks, is the framework aligned with the European Quality Framework? And if so, what is the level of the training?
Actually, the Geoprofiles that we develop follows ESCO, and we will try to align them with the European Quality Framework. So it is a task that we are going to try to do it on the Geoprofiles that the STEAM, that the framework was used in order to create.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Natalia, for responding to those questions now. And we're now about to take a very, very short, but much needed, I imagine, coffee break. Don't forget to join us after the break at around 3:20, where we will have a keynote speech from Professor Anastasios Mikropoulos, and you will also have the chance to pose your own questions to him. Feel free again to find out a bit more about all this and more during the break on our online platform agenda, and we'll see you back here at 3:20. Welcome back. I hope you're feeling sufficiently refueled for our second keynote speech of the day. And this comes to you from Anastasios Mikropoulos, Professor in ICT and Virtual Reality in Education at the Department of Primary Education, University of Ioannina, Greece. Anastasios is the director of the Educational Approaches to Virtual Reality Technologies Lab called Earth Lab. He also serves as a consultant for the Greek Ministry of Education in topics such as digital school and in-service teachers' further training. His speech, coming to you now, is on the pedagogical aspects of STEM or STEAM education. And remember to get your questions into him, and we will address them with Anastasios at the end of his keynote speech. I'd now like to pass the floor to Anastasios to hear what he has to say.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. I thank the organizers for the invitation and the opportunity to give me to present my ideas on STEM education. Just a moment to share my screen. Can you see the presentation right now? Okay. Well, let's start with some questions. What are the ways to improve a runner's performance? What is the best type of car to buy? Is it an internal combustion engine, or should I buy a hybrid car? Or maybe even better, a completely electric car? What are the ways to relieve from different insect stings? Is vinegar, for example, good for everything? Can I trust my horoscope predictions? How can I design my experiment? What will be the experimental setup? What will be the methodology I have to follow? How can we recreate the ancient theater of Dodona because of the collapsed stands caused by the erosion? What do these questions have in common? They are real problems. They are authentic problems. They require knowledge transfer among various disciplines. They need skills and competencies. They require collaboration, cooperation, and communication of knowledge. They require a solution, tests, improvements, and the optimum solution at the end. They are complicated problems. All these are real, difficult to solve problems. Some history now. Some history from 1985 almost to today, both in the USA and Europe. In the beginning of 2000, the American Ministry of Education, let's say, said that we have to improve education in STEM disciplines, not STEM education, STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Why? Because there were some low performances in international evaluation tests like TIMSS and PISA. At the same time, in Europe, and actually in the UK, there was a movement to activate youth, and there was a need for professional orientation. Why? Because it was a lack of graduates in STEM fields having competencies to communicate knowledge and solve real problems. Almost the same situation we can see in the States and Europe. In 2015, President Obama said that there is a need for STEM education and critical thinking skills. You can see that the story changes. not STEM disciplines, but STEM education and critical thinking. And here it that we need to include everybody in education. Inclusion, education for all. So critical thinking and educational for all. At the same time, in Europe, the European Union says that we have to promote STEM education, education for all. And Europe says that we have to enhance innovation and create new jobs. So here we can see a transformation from STEM disciplines to STEM education. So let's be in Europe now. In 2015, the European Parliament proposes certain actions to promote STEM education, aiming at the enhancement of competencies and professional skills. And the European Committee proposes changes in curricula, changes in instructional techniques, teachers' professional development, and gender equality. Do they happen? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. Or yes, at a certain level. Now, at the same time, we look at the class of the 21st century, and we have to do the leap from 3 R's to 4 C's. We all know the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetics. And everybody says that in nowadays, these 3 R's are conquered by everybody or almost everybody. And we have to go from these 3 R's to the 4 C's, meaning critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, and cooperation. Why? Because these are necessary to solve authentic, that is real, problems with the contribution of sciences. We all know that sciences, natural sciences, are key disciplines to everyday life. So we need these competencies to solve problems from our life. Let's see a small example. Here we have some groups of students conducting an experiment, either in the real environment at the left or in a collaborative virtual environment at the right. What is the problem these students have to solve? They have to turn this mirror here at the left so that this laser beam coming from this laser hit the mirror at the correct angle so that the reflected beam to be at the center of this yellow circle in order this yellow circle to fall down. Okay, we all know that this is a really simple problem. This is a problem we can solve with, let's say, high school mathematics. But the difficult part of this problem is that this problem is a real problem. And our experiments show it that the students, not the pupils, but university students had a difficulty to realize that this simple problem was a problem that uses simple geometry. What I mean is that we learn many things at school, but all these nice things are not so close to reality. And we have to transfer them in real situations in order to solve them. Now, what is STEM education? Let's see the dominant version of STEM education. STEM refers to the combination of sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics in a way that it exceeds the limits between these disciplines. This says that STEAM education is an interdisciplinary approach, not thematic, interdisciplinary approach, or even a thematic approach, not an interdisciplinary. These are two completely different concepts. And STEM education refers to real problems. Okay. Why do we need STEM and STEAM education? Because now we can see that some years ago, the A coming from arts came here, and STEM education became STEAM education. Okay. First of all, we want our students, our future professionals, to be able to solve real problems. And in order to do that in a really nice way, they need creativity and motivation, which arts can introduce. That's why arts came into STEM education. So what do we need for STEM or STEAM education? This is the well-known model saying that in order to teach a discipline or a topic or a theme, firstly, we have to have content knowledge. In order to solve a problem in physics, for example, I have to know about the problem, about the theories, the concepts, the scientific methodology, all things around physics. But is it enough? No, it's not enough, because I have to know how to do it. So I need a second body of knowledge, the pedagogical knowledge. I need to know how to do it. That is, what instructional models and strategies to use, what the curriculum says, how to organize the classroom, and so on. And of course, I don't need to own this second body of knowledge separately than content knowledge, but I have to be able to combine these two bodies of knowledge, because I need to know what pedagogies to teach the specific content, how I will teach motion, for example. This is the so-called pedagogical content knowledge. But now we have technology. We have digital technology. Digital technology is all around us. So we use it in education, and we have to have technological knowledge. That is, we have to know the affordances of technology, namely the unique features of technology, and we have to have digital competencies. But again, this body of knowledge has to be combined with the other two. So that is, we have to have technological content knowledge, meaning we have to know which technology to use to teach a specific content, and in parallel, we have to have technological pedagogical knowledge, meaning we need to have the knowledge on how to use the specific technology to teach something. Finally, as you can imagine, we have to have technological pedagogical content knowledge in order to teach meaningfully and support our teaching by technology. And if you think a little, all these things can be related to STEAM education. So STEAM is meaningful learning. And I remind you that we left the fields of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And now we can see, we have to see, we see STEM as a whole, as a unity. And what does it mean? That means that E from engineering is not some topics from engineering, but E means engineering design. And it is to solve real problems, considering all the limitations, technical, environmental, and social. Okay? That means engineering. And that is E for engineering configures the real problem and the procedure to solve it. Engineering says how to solve a problem with the things, with the cars, with the ancient theater, everything else. And arts adds creativity and motivation. And the other fields, let's say, science, technology, and mathematics, provide us knowledge and skills to solve the real problems. So STEM education introduces the engineering way of thinking in the educational process. What is it? And now we can see the well-known engineering circle. We have to define the problem, the real problem, authentic problem. After that, we have to do some research on this problem, followed by a plan and design how to solve this problem, create and develop my first, let's say, solution, test and evaluate the solution, reflect and improve the solution or the research or the design, and communicate all this knowledge and skills with others. And after that, I have to start from the beginning, start again, because I need probably to redefine the problem, to redesign and find a better solution. So, what after all is the pedagogical added value of STEM education? It is to reach high level of cognitive skills. We can see here the well-known revised Bloom cognitive taxonomy. So STEM help us to reach the 5th or even the 6th level, to give us the competencies to evaluate and create new knowledge through the solving of real problems. But not only this, STEM education help us to reach higher levels of the affective taxonomy, as well as of the psychomotor taxonomy. So in my opinion, STEM education is a whole approach, not a new approach, an old approach, but an approach that puts things together in order to reach the best of education. So the integrated version of STEM is this one, following recent research in the field. Of course, we need STEM content, but STEM education is not an interdisciplinary or even thematic approach. It uses STEM content, uses problem-based learning, or inquiry learning, or design-based learning, or collaborative learning in order to solve the real problem. And that means actually the approach of knowledge construction or social construction of knowledge. And put in a little different way, STEM education is knowledge combined with skills, combined with values to solve problems for everyday life or for society or for the environment. And what is, after all, the meaning of STEM education? This is the meaning of STEM education. Real problems do not refer to individual disciplines as they are usually taught in school. STEM approach combines knowledge and skills to strengthen students on the way things work. Okay, that's fine, but this is theory. What can I do at school? Okay, we have, my opinion is that we have to transform this engineering circle into an education.
It appears we may have briefly lost Anastasios Mikropoulos there. We were just actually about to wrap up for a quick coffee break, but maybe we can try and see if we can get Anastasios back online, if we're having any luck with our tech wizards here in Brussels. And it doesn't appear so. So unfortunately, we've lost Anastasios this time around. We've actually had a couple of questions coming in from the audience, but maybe we can come back to those just after the break, and we'll try and get Anastasios back online with us. We're going to take another short coffee break now, but be sure to join us again at 4 p.m. when we'll have a range of lightning talks and a panel discussion, and also a segment when we're going to share best practices. Thanks very much for staying with us, and we'll see you again at 4. Hello, I'd just like to give a quick message to those of you joining the lightning talk session a bit later on. We've had to change some of the links, so if you could jump back out of that session and then come back in, the stream should be working fine. If we ever needed a message from the gods that more digital skills are needed now more than ever in Europe, I think that was a pretty clear one indeed. Our apologies there for the technical glitch, but I do believe that we have Anastasios back online with us.
Yes.
Hello, Anastasios, we can hear
Hello.
you loud and clear. And while unfortunately we don't have enough time now to finish your presentation, those of you tuning in can view Anastasios' presentation on the Alldigital Summit website. But I just wonder, Anastasios, if you could stay with us for a couple of minutes, because we had 2 questions from the audience come in specifically in response to some of the things you were